In this Adobe After Effects tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can create the illusion of light passing through letters using the CC Radial Fast Blur effect. To note, this is different than the effect of light rays, a preset and effect. I cover that in another tutorial. In the light rays, we can actually cast shadows using light positions and cameras. This is just creating the illusion of light in motion passing behind letters. So let's get started. First, you're going to type your text and position it onto the screen. You're going to probably want to use your rulers for this to help line some things up when you actually start animating the motion of the light passing. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the CC Radial Fast Blur and drag it onto our text. And you can see instantly it's already starting to have an effect. If I open up Effects and I can open up the Fast Blur, the things that I want to pay attention to is the center and the amount, and also the brightness of it. Center is going to be where it actually is positioned. In this case, it's right in the center because it's even on all sides. The amount is how bright the light is going to be. So I'm going to start at the beginning of my timeline, and under amount I'm going to click a keyframe, and I'm going to set the amount to 0 because I want to start off normal looking. I'm going to advance down the timeline, set another keyframe. We're going to set this to about 75. Go down the timeline again. And we're going to bump this next one up to about 85. Go down the timeline a little bit more. And then we'll set this to 70 again. Go down the timeline more. This is where it's going to peak at, so we'll set it to 95. Go down a little bit farther, and then set it to 0 again. So, when we go to the beginning, we'll actually set this keyframe to 70. So when we start at the beginning, we start at 0. We'll set the amount to 70. We'll set it to 85. We'll set it to 70 again. We'll set it to 95 and then end at 0. And so literally what I've done is I've just animated how bright the lights are going to be. You can see it's the blur. However, it's all coming through one side, and you'll note that the blur is really kind of dull and not intense. To fix the intensity, under Zoom, it's by default set to standard. If we set it to brightest, then that's going to allow the light to be nice, bright, and shiny, almost glowing. But now we have to animate it passing, and that's going to be done through the center point of the radial blur. So let's go back to home, and we're going to start our center point by actually going to our second keyframe rather than our first, because we want to start off with nothing and then have the blur come in later. So at my first key point, I'm not going to set one. I'm going to set my first key point for center at the second point. And to do that, I'm going to need up here at the top under the effects controls, you'll see a little button here right under reset. And that's what's going to allow me to drag and reposition the the direction of where the light's going to come from. So, under center, my second keyframe, I'm going to click and add a keyframe to it, and then use my centering position, which gives me this crosshair, to go to the outside. Advance to my next keyframe. Click another keyframe. Use my positioning to put it back into the center. Advance to my next keyframe. Add a keyframe. Position it to the outside. I'm going to bring it back into the center again, and that's where I'm going to have it fade out. And then I'm not going to add a keyframe at the end so that when it positions through, it looks like it passes through and then stops. Now it's a little stiff going through, so or meaning that the animation is kind of stiff and stops abruptly. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my keyframes, and I'm going to hold Control click or right click and go to Keyframe Assistant, and I'm going to select Easy Ease so that it smooths it out a little bit. So now it's a little softer and a little smoother. If you want the light to pass slower through it, then just increase the distance between your keyframes. And this is how we create the illusion of light passing through letters or a graphic in Adobe After Effects.